Hare Krishna, devotees. Welcome to day 34 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3. Today is 34th day in the third canto. So we are currently in chapter 12, which is titled Creation of the Kumars and Others, and we are in the third section, which is the third section is titled The Appearance of Rudra, and we are continuing on today. That particular section, third section, the appearance of Rudra, is from verse 7 to verse 20. But we are continuing on today from verse 8. So first of all, our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All right, yes, so creation of the Kumars and others, that's chapter 12 of the third canto, third section, the appearance of Rudra, from verse 7 to verse 20, and we are starting today with verse 8. Here we go. So now, this is Rudra. This is Rudra. He has just appeared. So verse 8, after his birth he began to cry, "O destiny maker, teacher of the universe, kindly designate my name and place." And there's no purport here, so we go on to verse 9. The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, "Do not cry. I shall certainly do as you desire." Verse 10. Thereafter Brahma said, "O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people, because you have so anxiously cried." And there's no purport here also, so we go on to verse 11. My dear boy, I've already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. So we have a purport here. Srila Prabhupada says, this creation of Rudra from between the eyebrows of Brahma as a result of his anger is generated from the mode of passion, partly touched by ignorance. Yeah, this is very significant indeed. And Srila Prabhupada elaborates on the significance in the continuation of the purport here. So Prabhupada makes the point that in Bhagavad Gita 3:37, the principle of Rudra is described. You may be familiar with that, devotees. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna samudbhava, mahashano mahapapma, vidhyenam iha vairinam. Yes, so Prabhupada explains that krodha, or anger, is the product of karma, or lust. This is there in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 62. Probably you're familiar with that verse, where Jayato Vishayam Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodo Bajayate. Lord Krishna explains there, Bhagavad Gita 262. While contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. This is what is being discussed here, at least according to that description in Bhagavad Gita 262. First of all, a person contemplates some sense-gratifying object, could be a member of the opposite sex, of course, or different possibilities are there, but the person sees, or maybe doesn't even see, but just thinks about some materially enjoyable object, and then thinks about it, contemplates. So from that contemplation, attachment arises. It means the person becomes, first of all, they're just thinking, oh, that'd be nice to enjoy. But now they're attached. Now they're thinking, yes, now I must get it. So that's the real attachment. A sort of a conclusion is there in the mind that I want it and I will get it. And then from that attachment, lust arises, which basically means that then the person enjoys it, whatever the sense object is. So from that lust, the full expression, manifestation of that lust, then what comes next? Of course, people on the material level, in their state of extreme confusion, they think that if you get some desirable sense object and then you enjoy it, actually, then the result will be happiness. But no, in Bhagavad Gita there, chapter 2, verse 62, Lord Krishna says, Kamat, from kama, lust, krodat, bhajayate. From lust, anger arises. So therefore, as Prabhupada says here in the purport, anger, krodha, is the result of kama, lust, which is the result of the mode of passion. So when lust and hankering are unsatisfied, which is normally the case, normally either the person cannot get the desirable object, and so they feel frustrated, or they get the desirable object, try to enjoy it, but find they don't get much enjoyment at all. So as Prabhupada says, that when lust and hankering are unsatisfied, the element of krodha, anger, appears. And this is the formidable enemy of the conditioned soul. So this most sinful and inimical passion is represented as ahankara, or the false egocentric attitude of thinking oneself to be all in all. And such an attitude, Prabhupada goes on to say that that such an egocentric attitude on the part of the conditioned soul, who's completely under the control of material nature, is described in Bhagavad Gita as foolish. Yes, extremely foolish. So anyway, the egocentric attitude that I am the focal point, I am all in all, that egocentric attitude, Prabhupada says, is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart being where anger is generated. Then it develops there and then manifests through the senses like the eyes, hands, legs. Prabhupada says that sometimes when a person gets angry, they express their anger, Prabhupada says, with red hot eyes. Sometimes they make a display of clenching of fists or kicking of legs. Oh, when anger really is just overpowering them, they lose control like that. So this proves these exhibitions of anger in different parts of the bodies, as we just read, proves the presence of Rudra in those places. Yes. So, and further, when a man is angry, he breathes rapidly, and thus Rudra is represented in the air of life, or in the activities of breathing. So, and otherwise, in a broad sense, in a general sense, when the sky is overcast and roars and wind blows hard, it is the Rudra principle. And also when the sea is infuriated by the wind, this is also Rudra, very fearful to the common man. And I don't know if you've ever seen devotees. Have you ever seen people blown over by the wind? I've seen elderly people in Cape Town, South Africa, just blown over, crash by the wind. And so, in fact, I saw just a little clip, a news clip, about 15 seconds, just last week, of a car in America. There was extremely strong wind, and a car, a very small car, is driving on a highway and hits a tire. There's a tire somehow on the highway. The car hits the tire and suddenly takes off and rolls over in the air and comes crashing down upside down. The wind. Yeah, so all these things. The sky, there's so much wind and noise and heavy rain and thunder. It's all the Rudra principle. And it's very fearful. So, and then Prabhupada says, when there is an inundation over the earth, we can understand that this is also the representation of Rudra. All right, so now the purport continues for another paragraph, that here on this planet, there are many creatures, many earthly creatures, who represent the Rudra principle, or the Rudra element. Prabhupada mentions snakes, tigers, lions. They're always representations of Rudra. Right. Sometimes when there's extreme heat, sun, there are cases of heat stroke. And sometimes, due to extreme coldness created by the moon, there are cases of collapse. Then Prabhupada makes an interesting point that the Rudra principle of anger and passion is sometimes exhibited by different sages. Prabhupada says there are many sages empowered with the influence of austerity, and many yogis, philosophers, and renouncers who sometimes exhibit their acquired power under the influence of the Rudra principle of anger and passion. And then Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Devasa Muni, who in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, very famous and sort of educational pastime happening, Devasa Muni curses Maharaj Ambarish, trying to sort of cause pain for Maharaj Ambarish. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not appreciate that at all, and rather Devasa Muni shortly gets very severely smashed and he's about to die. Sudarshan Chakra is after him. So when Devasa cursed Maharaj Ambarish and he took a hair from his head, threw it down, and created a mystical demon who then went to kill Maharaj Ambarish, then that was the influence of the Rudra principle. But of course, if you try to use that against a devotee like Maharaj Ambarish, then you, the one who's under the influence of the Rudra principle, anger, something like that, you will be the one who suffers in the end. And similarly, Prabhupada mentions when Shringi cursed Maharaj Parikshit, and on this basis, Parikshit went and sat on the bank of the Ganges, and Shukadev came and recited the whole Bhagavatam to him. So that boy Shringi, who cursed Parikshit, he was under the influence of the Rudra principle. Anger, cursing. So, but, ultimately that was the special arrangement of the Lord, as in that way we all received Srimad Bhagavatam. So Prabhupada goes on to make an important point. When the Rudra principle is exhibited by persons who are not in devotional service, then the angry person falls down. And particularly, of course, that's what happened with Devasa Muni. And as an example, right at the end of the purport here, Srila Prabhupada quotes Srimad Bhagavatam 10-32 about the fall down of the impersonalists. That the impersonalist thinks that because of avashuddha buddhaya, impure consciousness, impure intelligence, the impersonalist foolishly makes the claim that he's one with the Supreme. But the result of that is, on the basis of the Rudra principle, Patantyada, he falls down. Right. Okay, so on we go, devotees, verse 12. Lord Brahma said, "My dear boy, Rudra, you have 11 other names: Manu, Manu, Mahinasha, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadvaja, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadev, and Dritavrata." So there's no purport here, verse 13. O Rudra, you also have 11 wives, called the Rudranis, and they are as follows: Di, Driti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarapi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Swadha, and Diksha. There's no purport. So let's read verse 14, which does have a purport. My dear boy, you may now accept all the names and places designated for you and your different wives. And since you are now one of the masters of the living entities, you may increase the population on a large scale. So, Lord Brahma, as the father of Rudra, he is making all the arrangements. Prabhupada makes the point in the purport that all these arrangements, who the son should marry, where the son should live when he's married, and names also. These things traditionally are given by the father. Yes, I mean, all of us, at least by birth, I think all of us, we were given names by our parents. But in terms of marriage and places of residence when married, well, it depends actually, but I know in many cases, people just find someone and they get married to them. And then between the two of them, they figure out where they're going to live. So, but generally this is done by the father. Prabhupada makes the point here. Yes. So Prabhupada says that's the general course in increasing the population of the world. But however, on the other hand, the Kumars did not accept the offerings of their fathers, or the offering, because they were elevated beyond the need or desire or interest in increasing population. So Prabhupada concludes the purport. As the son can refuse the order of the father for higher purposes, so the father can refuse to maintain his sons in increasing population because of higher purposes. Verse 15. The most powerful Rudra, whose bodily color was blue mixed with red, created many offspring, exactly resembling him in features, strength, and furious nature. 16. The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number, and when they assembled together, they attempted to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entities, saw this, he became afraid of the situation. Right, so anyway, there's a purport here, short purport. Brahma told Rudra, you don't need to produce living entities like this. Yeah. Even Brahma was afraid of them. So, yeah. So even Brahma was afraid of them. And Prabhupada makes the point in the purport that the so-called devotees of Rudra, and you get them around in India to some degree, they're also a menace. They're sometimes dangerous even for Rudra himself. And Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, sometimes the descendants of Rudra make plans to kill Rudra by the grace of Rudra. That is the nature of his devotees. Srila Prabhupada may well be referring to Vrikasura, who got a benediction. Anyone whose head he touched would die. So therefore he decided to touch the head of Lord Shiva and get him to die. But anyway, the Lord Krishna intervened and Lord Shiva was saved. But that's the nature of his devotees. Sometimes they make plans to kill their Lord. Right, so verse 17, Brahma told Rudra, O best among the demigods, there's no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes, and they have even attacked me. Verse 18, my dear son, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities, and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only shall you be able to create the universe as it was before. Right, so there's a very short purport that Rudra was advised not to destroy while the period of creation and maintenance was going on, but rather situate yourself in penance and wait for the appropriate time, the time of dissolution, the next dissolution, at the end of the next day of Brahma. At the end of that day of Brahma, then his services will be required. Otherwise, they're not required. It's just out of place, out of time. 19. By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity, and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. All right, so there's a purport here. So Lord Brahma's advised Rudra, do penance. You'll set a good example for your sons and followers. And the thing is, penance is necessary to get the favor of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. And Prabhupada notes how in Bhagavad Gita, Yad yad acharati shrestas tat tat eve tarojana, the Lord says that as great men act, ordinary people follow in their footsteps. Yes, people follow the examples of the leaders. So Rudra, you're a leader of your offspring and your whole group. So do penance to set a good example for them, for your sons and followers. And in this way you may get the favor of the Lord. So Lord Brahma, Prabhupada says, Lord Brahma is disgusted with Rudra and his offspring. Not just disgusted, he's afraid of being eaten by them. So therefore said, stop making children and do penance. Do something useful. Do penance to get the favor of the Lord. So therefore Prabhupada points out that when we see pictures of Rudra, generally he's in meditation forgetting the mercy of the Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, indirectly the sons and followers of Rudra are advised to stop the business of annihilation, following the Rudra principle while the peaceful creation of Brahma is going on. All right, so here now we come to the last verse in this section, verse 20. Sri Maitreya said, thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of the Vedas, addressing him with words of assent. He entered the forest to perform austere penances. So now, next section, section 4, is from verse 21 to verse 27, and it's about how other important beings make their appearances. So let's read the verses. Verse 21, Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and begot 10 sons for the extension of the generations. 22, Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Brigu, Vasishta, Daksha, and the 10th son, Narada, were thus born. 23. Narada was born from the deliberation of Brahma, which is the best part of the body. Vasishta was born from his breathing, Daksha from a thumb, Brigu from his touch, and Kratu from his hand. 24. Pulastya was generated from the ears, Angira from the mouth, Atri from the eyes, Marichi from the mind, and Pulaha from the navel of Brahma. Verse 25. Religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, and irreligion appeared from his back, where horrible death takes place for the living entity. Verse 26. Lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger from between his eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins. Verse 27. Sage Kardama, husband of the great Devahuti, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all became manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma. So there you go, devotees. Those are the verses. Let's read through them again with their purports. Yes, okay. So, yeah, there's a purport here. Not a big purport, but anyway, let's say some words. Prabhupada, as he's done on quite a number of occasions already, and as he will do on quite a number more as we go further on into the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada describes why is the material creation here. Yes, and Prabhupada says the whole process of creation, maintenance, etc., dissolution, is there simply, really, to give the conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. So that's the whole process. That's what creation's all about. Yeah. So after his bad experience with Rudra, Lord Brahma created another good set of sons. So after his bad experience with Rudra, Brahma created another set of good sons, all these ones who we've just read the names of, at least the great majority of them. Most of them are in favor of fruitive activities and will be good for increasing the population, all of them except for Narada, basically. So, but he knew that just increasing the population just like that is not the answer to, that's not going to help people perfect their lives. But they need devotional service. Otherwise, reproducing, increasing the population. The animals do that. The animals, the plants, the insects, the fish, they all do that. And what good has it done them? What good has it done them? No good at all when it comes to perfecting their lives, naturally. So therefore he created Narada, not for the purpose of getting Narada to produce children, but he produced Narada to become the supreme spiritual master of all transcendentalists. Because without devotional service, even very advanced humans, like technologically advanced, even very advanced, like in Karmakandi, a materialistic religion, it's just not going to help at all. Zero, no help. Every activity needs devotional service to become complete, but devotional service doesn't need anything else to become complete itself, yes. So therefore the service of Narada is the highest amongst all these sons of Brahma. And we can just note a point, interesting little historical point. You remember in the first canto the story of Narada Muni? In considerable detail, the son of the maid servant, his mother dies, he goes out to preach. At some point, somewhat later on, he's preaching and he's a devotee and he's carrying on like that. And he meets the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who tells them, this is the only time you'll see me in this lifetime. But basically tells them, keep going, keep practicing Krishna consciousness, you can perfect your life. So then the first canto describes how how Narada Muni, when he finally reaches the time of death, having been in the body of the son of the maidservant, at least as a child, that's what his position was, but he was not yet the famous Narada Muni that we know. So, as the Bhagavatam first canto describes, Narada, death occurred, and his complete God consciousness occurred, just like lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. And that was right at the end of the previous creation. So then Narada was born in the first generation of living beings in the next day of Brahma. This is what's being described here. That Narada appeared in the first day, in the first generation of children of Lord Brahma in the next day of Brahma. Right, so you get that idea. So his service is the highest of all the sons of Lord Brahma. Verse 23. Narada was born from the deliberation of Brahma, which is the best part of the body. Vasishta was born from his breathing, Daksha from a thumb, Brigu from his touch, and Kratu from his hand. So yes, there's a purport here. Prabhupada says Narada, born from the best deliberation of Brahma, because Narada, he has that special qualification. He's able to deliver the Lord to almost anyone. Maybe actually anyone he liked. And of course, we're not familiar with all the cases, all the living beings, all the people who met Narada. But in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's definitely descriptions of some. Narada met Vyas and helped Vyas, who was not doing so well. And Narada met Prahlad Maharaj, who was in great difficulty, and so on like that. There's all sorts of examples of Narada Muni coming and preaching to people. And those people, when he preaches to them, even though some of them seem like not very good candidates for devotional service, but because he's such a preacher, so empowered with the best deliberation of Brahma, he's able to deliver the Lord practically to anyone who he likes. And Srila Prabhupada makes the point, and again, it's a point which has been made on a number of occasions and will be made further, that Krishna cannot be realized through any amount of even Vedic knowledge or by doing any number of penances. But Narada can deliver to anyone, practically, the Supreme Lord. He can deliver the Supreme Lord by his goodwill. Therefore, the association of Narada or someone like Narada is just absolutely the greatest benediction a person can receive. So Prabhupada goes on, Nara means the Supreme Lord, and Da means one who can deliver. Narada, one who can deliver the Supreme Lord. Just like, it's the same idea, interesting point. Mother Yashoda, Yasha Da. Yasha meaning fame. Da means one who can deliver. Mother Yashoda is someone who can deliver fame to another person. And it's said in Vrindavan, in certain circles it's said, or I could say the question is raised, how is Krishna so famous? He's so extremely famous. Well, the answer is Yasha Da. Yasha meaning fame. She blessed Krishna that may your words be well known by everyone. So they say that because she blessed Krishna like that, therefore Krishna has become so famous, and his instructions, particularly in Bhagavad Gita, are so extremely famous because she is Yasha, which means fame, Yasha Da. So, but anyway, the fact that Narada can deliver the Lord, Narada, doesn't mean the Lord is like a commodity. But the thing is, Narada can give anyone devotional service in any rasa as the person desires. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in other words, it is Narada only who can deliver the path of Bhakti Yoga, the highest mystic means for attainment of the Supreme Lord. All right, so let's carry on with verse 24. Pulastya was generated from the ears, Angira from the mouth, Atri from the eyes, Marichi from the mind, and Pulaha from the navel of Brahma. All right, there's no purport here. Verse 25, religion was manifested from the breast of Brahma, wherein is seated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. And irreligion appeared from his back, where horrible death takes place for the living entity. Okay, let's go through the purport here. Prabhupada says, that religion was manifested from the place where the personality of Godhead is personally situated is very significant, because religion means devotional service to the personality of Godhead. So both Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam confirm this. Yes. Religion in the perfect form, of course, is devotional service, unmotivated, uninterrupted by any material impediments. Yeah, so Prabhupada continues, religion in its perfect form is devotional service, and irreligion is exactly the opposite. The heart is the most important part of the body, and the back is the most neglected. Devotees, have any of you touched your back, your entire back? Quite likely the answer is no, because there's certain parts, like sort of in the center of the back, the top center, unless you're really a real yogi, got a very flexible body. But there's certain parts, not big parts, but certain parts that you can't touch, you can't reach in your own body. So Prabhupada says the heart is the most important part of the body. The back is the most neglected. and then Prabhupada says, when we're attacked, we may endure attacks from the back, but protect ourselves carefully from attacks on the chest. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, anything which does not lead to the devotional service of the Lord is irreligion, and anything which leads to the devotional service of the Lord is called religion. Verse 26, lust and desire became manifested from the heart of Brahma, anger manifested from between his eyebrows, greed from between his lips, the power of speaking from his mouth, the ocean from his penis, and low and abominable activities from his anus, the source of all sins. Okay. Wow, that's pretty dramatic, a little dramatic. So anyway, there's purport here. Let's go through it. Conditioned soul is under the influence of mental speculation. And even if someone is great in terms of mundane education, they can't be free from the influence of psychic activities. Therefore, it's difficult to give up lust and low desires until you're in devotional service. So, when lust is frustrated, anger comes from the mind and is expressed from between the eyebrows. So therefore, ordinary people are advised, this is interesting, ordinary people are advised to concentrate the mind by focusing between the eyebrows, whereas devotees are already practiced to place the Lord on the seat of their minds. So then Prabhupada goes on, the theory of becoming desireless, trying to become desireless, Prabhupada says it's untenable. It's not, it cannot really be done. Sort of a waste of time, actually. So therefore, when it is recommended that one become desireless, it's understood that what it means is one should not desire things which are destructive to spiritual values. That is desirelessness. So therefore, the devotee always has the Lord in mind, and therefore doesn't need to be desireless. His desires are always in relationship with the Lord's service. Right, then the power of speaking came from his mouth, but that was called Saraswati. And her birthplace is the mouth of Lord Brahma. And Prabhupada makes the point, even if someone is favored by Saraswati, it's possible his heart may be full of lust and material desires, and his eyebrows may display symptoms of anger. So therefore the mundane learned person may still not be free from lust and anger. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, good qualifications can be expected only from a pure devotee who is always engaged in the thought of the Lord, or in other words, in samadhi with faith. So let's go on. Let's complete this section. Last verse in the section's verse 27. Sage Kardama, husband of the great Devahuti, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all became manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma. All right, so yeah, I mean we've really covered a lot of the subject of the creation of different living entities and groups of living entities. But anyway, to just conclude this section, Srila Prabhupada points out that although one mode is always prominent, in every object, in every being, in every person, one of the three modes is always the prominent one. But the modes, that one, the most prominent one, is not alone, because the modes are never alone. Yeah. So therefore, even when passion and ignorance, the lower modes, even when passion and ignorance are prominent, there's still some goodness. Some, may not be a lot, but Prabhupada says a tinge of the mode of goodness. So therefore, all the sons of Brahma, they're generally in the modes of passion and ignorance. Hare Krishna. Generally in passion and ignorance, but then you get some, like Kardama, who are born in goodness. And then you get even Narada, who is born in the transcendental state of Lord Brahma. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.